Welcome, everybody. My name is Octavius Blount, also known as the Urban Thinker. I'm very excited. We got another brother here on the Middle Brother podcast. I'm glad this brother is here to join. We have a servant leader, advocate, and father. Brother, if you can introduce yourself, please do.
Absolutely. I'm Donavan West, Donavan S. West, if you know me, and I'm all the things you just now mentioned. I'm a servant leader. I'm a person of amazing faith, not just in God, but also in us as people. So I've dedicated my life to, investing in people in ways to let them know that it's not all what we see in our reels and on social media and other forms of media, but the real part is us, right? The human touch. So I enjoy touching people in a way that lets them know that I care, and it's very rare, but I enjoy it out here.
It is rare, and I do appreciate you for allowing me to be one of those people that you have touched in so many ways and impact me in so many ways as well, to be the man that I am and the man that you see. So I appreciate you for being there, brother.
I appreciate you for one major thing. One thing that we don't talk enough about, and that is permission. Thank you for giving me permission. In the coaching space, in the counseling space, often we get caught up in just what we know and what we want to share, right? As people who may have traveled a certain journey and things of the nature, and we see someone of promise and we want to just automatically blah, 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 and unload, like, you just need to know. And it's like, stop. I have this conversation pretty often that, we have to introduce this thing called permission. And permission is when you are in a space where you're open to receiving information, being poured into, but also more importantly, that you're saying, you know what, I choose you as a source, right? And that's that we don't talk enough about. So I know we got some questions to cover and things of that nature, but I have to give you your flowers as well and let you know that I appreciate you for giving me permission. It's always a choice. So you could have easily just been like, whatever, you know what I mean? But you chose differently. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, brother. And we're just going to kick it right off. The first question I got for you is, what's one thing you love about being a black man?
Just one thing, huh? So no, the number one thing that I love about being a black man is that I'm a black man, that I'm not what you see on TV. I'm not what you read about in the paper. But when you see me, you're going to be like, wow, oh, this is, So I enjoy that experience in terms of people leaning back a little bit, black, white, it doesn't matter. Like, I enjoy that. I enjoy actually being a black man. And I think as much as we see out here that, wants to paint a certain picture, or make a narrow, perspective of what a black man is. I enjoy those aha moments that I choreograph, so to speak, by just being authentic. So that's the number one thing I enjoy about being a black man, is actually moving about in the space, knowing that as long as I'm authentic, it's also going to be a good situation in most cases, right? We know all the other things that are tough about being a black man, but for me, it's leaning into myself, like being okay with just being me versus all these other things, and I enjoy it. Of course, not other people, they may not enjoy it as much. I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm saying being a black man, literally, and whatever that is, like whatever that means to you, like okay, that's you. But for me, it's my ability to actually live through it authentically and enjoy that journey. So that's the number one thing for me.
Okay. I'm going to add, you've definitely seen Transformers and the meaning behind more than meets the eye. I think we've all know what that means. And I think I've noticed that about you, is that you are more than meets the eye. You have a lot of hats that you wear. But when you step into a room, you have a presence.
Thank you, sir.
And I think that's one thing that a lot of people do not understand about black men. We walk into certain spaces with a certain presence. We call it swagger, but a lot of people call it presence. And when I step into a room, I step into the room as Octavius, the son of Octavia, the husband of Rosalind, and you just keep going down the list of like, these are the people that I represent, and they represent me. And I think that's one thing that I love about being a black man. When you step into that room, they have no idea.
That's what I mean.
Who you are.
That's what I mean. The other day I was dropping off my daughter to Delta Gems, a mentoring program.
Yeah.
And I just came back last week from Anaheim, California, where there was a a conference that focuses on supporting marginalized scientists. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I mentor a group out of Temple University. And so I gathered all these materials from all the colleges, all the universities regarding, the doctoral programs, summer programs, master's programs, undergraduate, summer, internships and things of the nature. So I grabbed a stash
Mm-hmm.
for my daughter, of course, and another additional stash a stash for other people. So when I came in there and I was like, here's some materials of different universities that are focusing on supporting, marginalized scientists that have that interest all the way from undergraduate all the way through to PhD. You can have, and so they looked at me and then looked in the bag and said, "Well, oh,
Yeah.
so I get one thing?" I said, "No, this whole bag is for you and for the
Mm-hmm.
young ladies. Like, this is a resource. Feel free to use it as you. It's got contact information, everything." And it was again a great experience to just see them like, wait. I'm like, I get it, right? You see me 6'6", you see me in my
Mm-hmm.
my sweats and my hoodie, and you're like, nah, I'm not. I'm not what you think, right? So
Yeah.
that experience right there, that presence, but also more importantly, moving away from, when I say that presence initially is the credit you give, and then what you do next is
Mm-hmm.
the cash, right? So I come through now with
Mm-hmm.
this content, all this information, and they're like, wait. I'm like, yeah, that part. It's okay. Like, let
Mm-hmm.
it breathe real quick. Here you go. I'm gonna give you some time with it. And you should have saw them just kind of gather around this information and look up, and so I enjoy those moments too, black man, to actually show like, yeah, there's more to me. So we're not just gonna, you know, um, act out something that you saw, on something that you just scrolled. Like, nah, that's not
Yeah.
it. That's not it.
Okay. I appreciate you for sharing that because a lot of men that I've talked to in the past times that I've talked to them, they never talked about the work. They talked about the end result and how many people they impacted. And I think talking about the work and showing other black boys and black young ladies, this is how you do the work. This is how you
That's
get it
it.
done. Yes, the glory is at the end, but what's the in between? That journey that you have to go through to get to there. I think that's some things that we're
And
missing too.
here's the funny thing about that: the glory may not even be there at the end, right? Like, here's the other
Yeah.
part about it is that, and someone asked me the other day about, fatherhood and like, what's the most rewarding thing about it? I was like, let me tell you the truth. Let me just keep it a being with you. There's not a lot of rewarding stuff. Like, there's not things that are rewarding. Like, let's just be honest.
Mhm.
There's things I'm grateful for. Like, I love my daughter. She's such a gift. She's not a reward though. Like, that's a blessing. That's different. Reward is
Mhm.
acknowledgement and something that is given as a result of. And I don't get much of that. I don't look for much of that at this point. Like, when I was younger, I was in my
Mhm.
feelings. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, why they don't see this good work that I'm doing? But
Yeah.
I'm past that at this point. So now my daughter's about to turn 16, and I'm running around like a glorified Uber driver as I'm taking care of all the things that she needs, and I'm showing
Yeah.
up here in this space and that space, and that's it. That's your function. Period. I think we're in a society where we're too used to, and I always say that we all got a sweet tooth. We think that everything needs to
Mm.
come to us in a sweet way. It needs to. We're not used to a sugar-free lifestyle, so everything needs to be, there needs to be a reward. But the truth of the matter is,
Mhm.
sometimes you may not even get to that place where someone's going to acknowledge it. And so, even in that
Yep.
situation I just now described, where I provided this information, that's good. That, there may not be another exchange or anything like that. You may not even acknowledge where it came from as you talk to others. It's okay, right? In that moment,
Mhm.
that's it. And then the next time, if there is a next time, great. And if there is an acknowledgement, great. If there's not, that's fine either. That's where faith brings me, because faith is what brought me to this agape style love, right? Where
Yep.
I'm not,
Yep.
it's love for love's sake, period. Right? The ladies always say that. Fellas, we gotta say that too, period. Like, we just going to love on them, period. We
Mhm.
just want to show up, period. And it would be nice once in a while, right? Even though we got holidays that says you're supposed to give us a shout out here and there, it would be nice.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter, a lot of times that may never happen. So you got to get into that faith part. For me, You know, I can't preach to everybody and tell them X, Y, and Z, but you got to just get into that space. Like, this is actually my purpose and my function. And in that, there isn't, you know, a award ceremony. There isn't acknowledgement, recognition, accolades, all that. Sometimes it's just a matter of people just looking at you like, huh. And part of that is when you're doing something that's so different, because there are so many of us that are not doing the right thing. People sometimes just struggle with the idea of what they just experienced. So when I pop up into a certain space and I'm talking about, you know, biometric, you know, science and research and how I represent it with a group, and you know, and 4 out of 9 of them, you know, walked away with awards for their presentation at this conference in Anaheim, and people are like, "Wait, hold up, pause. Okay, let that breathe." I understand, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't just jump right in and be like, "Yo, oh my God, that's amazing," like, it's okay, because there's so much about that isn't televised, right? That you don't scroll up and see. At some point, when you recognize that you're one of these individuals that are doing these different things, the actual do, as you mentioned, you also have to be okay with the fact that, hey, by the way, congratulations, you're a unicorn. And someone just now saw a unicorn. Give them grace, because they don't know what they just saw or what they just experienced. It's okay. You know, and when you get into that kind of space, then you could be a little bit more at peace also, because sometimes, you know, that it can build up, you know, doing the work, being in the trenches, and not necessarily getting the light and the favor that you think you should get as a result of that.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part. And I think with you, I'm going to dig a little deeper into what you just talked about. And it's called Going in the Den with Donavan West. And the first thing is, we're going to go through that process of how you got to being a servant leader, an advocate. Obviously, we know you're a father, but it's getting to that point of, I'm this black man and now I have these titles, but how did I get there? So when did you discover your blackness when it came to, I'm Donavan West, but I am also a black man first?
I would have to say that was, that was middle school. It was middle school. I think I was about to go to high school, and and I remember someone, you know, calling me like this man child or whatever, using the N word, and I just stopped, like. And so, little backstory: I was 12 years old, but I was 6 foot tall.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, I get it, right?
Yeah.
Facial hair starting to get a little. I look like a man child. So, okay. But how I was regarded and how they responded in a certain way, it was like, wow, you know, you see a black man. And the way that I was, and as a person that had already been exposed to, you know, as a Jamaican, so Jamaica, Canada, London, those are all homes and influences and cultures that I really absorb. But here in the States, it hits different. You know what I mean? People act differently here in this space. And so that experience that I had, it still chokes me up now. Just like I was labeled, and it was like, oh, it's like looking in the mirror for the first time and seeing something that you never saw, like you didn't even know. And that was the first time when it was like, oh, you're a black man. So when I went into high school, now again, 13, 6'4". Okay. So I'm moving this around in ways that I'm not used to it yet. I'm looking around, and people are looking at me like I'm 22, 24. But I'm going to be 14, right? I'm still talking like that, right? Remember when you're young, like, I'm going to be, and you say the next age, I'm on that type of time. Extremely mature, extremely, like, in my books, and all my friends were books. I didn't have many friends. I was in it like that, but it was just, again, surreal, because at the end of the day, I had to now grapple with this other piece, and that is manhood. And again, at 13, turning 14 in October, going into high school, 6'4", a lot of people looking at me different. And they were, you know, teachers, everyone. My peers thought I was a narc. You know, they thought I was on some. For those who remember the show 21 Jump Street, you know, I was in the school acting like it's. but I was really a cop or something. So it was just a weird place to be. But at the end of the day, I had to pause and say, I am no longer a child in any way, shape, or form. And I started acting that way
Mm-hmm.
in good and bad ways.
Yeah. Okay. I think what I'm hearing, it's like people did label you, but you took the route of, okay, I see that y'all are labeling me, but how can I take this route and figure out it for myself? There's a time where at Roman, my alma mater, Roman Catholic High School, there was someone that was 6'8". I mean, he's in the NBA now. He's a rookie right now, but he was 6'8", 6'9", freshman, and he was upset. He was pouting. They said, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? I said, y'all have to remember, this young man is 13. He just got out of 8th grade and he wants to play. So he's going to pout. He's going to be upset. And I think that's one thing that people don't recognize is that when you are tall or you are big, you still have feelings. You still have thought process that you have to get to that some black men do not teach you. You have to go through it yourself sometimes. And I think when I saw that and I talked to the person that was next to me, because he was the one saying it, I said, you have to remember, he's young. Like when you were young, you were pouting, you were upset. He wanted to start. He's 6'9", and he wants to play.
Right.
So I think hearing you say that people labeled you a certain way, I feel like they labeled him in a certain way too. Whereas you're old enough, you're mature enough. It's like, wait, what about this 5'3" young black man over here? He's pouting too. It's the same thing. And it's a lot of things that can go into play when it comes to black men. They age us at least 5-6 years ahead of everybody else, and that's detrimental to us.
True.
And I think, did you want to add to that? Because
No,
I didn't
I
know.
was
I didn't
saying
want to
that
cut you
it's
off, brother.
absolutely true. And we're just scratching the surface. We're not even talking about the dynamics in the household, are we? Right? We're not talking about the fact that, there's no dad around, so you got to do certain things.
Yeah.
You're raising your little brothers and you're doing things a certain kind of way. So now being 13 is different. At that same age, my two older brothers are coming over now from London. And and we're now, so I'm going through a lot of things in terms of identity, in terms of being head of household in many ways, right? From a male perspective, and then having these older brothers, and then also going into school, and so all these different dynamics. Back to what you mentioned earlier, titles, right? You have these different titles, and understanding that you are all of them, right? You are all of them. But now, how do you manage situationally? And that becomes, again, something that we as men don't talk enough about in terms of how we may have to shift, right? You go home, right? There's you, the husband, the head of household, whatever may be the case. You go out that door, there's you, director of this. You go into this other space, there's you, the mentor. And then, but you're all of them, right? So how do you navigate between the two at different times, right? And understand that with each responsibility is another set of relationships, right? So all these dynamics is very important. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Going into that space, I remember stepping into Northeast High School, and the coach literally just grabbing my arm and said, "What must you be, boy? Like 6'4", 6'5"? How you doing? Good morning. My name is Donovan. What's your name? Right? I understand. You looking at me, right? And you see this thing, right? You see this tool. I get it, right?
Tool, yep.
You're looking like, oh my God, you could be a tight end on a football team. You could be a wide receiver, whatever. What's your speed? Pause. Who are you? What are you, right? What are we trying to be?
Yeah.
What are we trying to be? Right? So if you want to come to me as a tool in that space, and you want to, so now I'm thinking transactionally. So now I got to, what's your value? What are we doing? So again, but that part comes in for those of you who are survivors and from the street space, out here having to do certain things click on. Oh, snap. You just triggered something now with me. Now I'm looking at you sideways a different kind of way now. Oh, stop, pause. I'm in school. Okay, let me just be quiet for a second. Let me just try to figure this out. So I'm going to leave it right there, though.
Okay. So I do want to get to the point of when you did discover and people were labeling you, and then you're also going through this identity. How did you explore your feelings within that space of finding out who you were as far as identity being the tall man that you are, and also understanding that I still have these feelings, but how do I express them?
I struggled early. I was I was a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
I was like, I struggled early because, I used to get teased a lot, being the tallest. Also, back in those days also, Americans weren't very kind to Jamaicans,
Yeah.
and so you get teased for the clothes you wear, how you sound, whatever, all the whole nine. So, I not having much family at all here. So, so I was an angry young man, like on 10, on 10. So I
Okay.
didn't, literally my mom was like, you need to go out and make friends. Like I had to see a counselor for my anger. I had, I was a mess. I was a mess. I didn't talk at all. I would just go 0 to 1,000. It was me against the world. And, so I struggled a lot in terms of expressing or getting in touch with why. Like it to me, I felt largely that I just felt abandoned. I felt like I got to deal with all this energy and attention towards me, and I didn't ask for any of it. And I have no colleagues or comrades or anyone to help navigate through that. So I, for me, I was literally like this. It was a freak of nature kind of situation. I'm into my books and stuff. So there it is. I understand, math and science and doing all this other stuff. But then here I am in this body, and okay, I'm gonna try out, basketball and football and this and the other. So it was weird. I didn't belong to either, though, right? I didn't belong to either. So identity wise, that was interesting for me, just trying to figure it out, and then realizing that just be you. So if you like this, then do that, and if you want to talk and engage with certain people, then that's fine. And it became a situation where, yes, I knew both groups of people, right? The nerd gang, and then the jocks, right? I knew them both because I had parts of both, and I was okay with somewhere being in the middle. But that took some time. In the meantime, I was just this quiet dude who just like, this is the way that I keep my calm. This is the way that I don't get kicked out, don't hurt no, like this is the way to do it, because I realized early that it's me. It is literally me, and I'm going to lose. So don't do that. Don't try to be like on some Jackie Chan against 10 dudes. Like that ain't, we're not doing that no more. Like, let me just keep my peace, listen more. And that's when I got into the philosophy that I have now, which is listen to lead, where it was like, okay, the more I work on my listening skills, the better that I'll be able to serve you as well as to lead you potentially in certain spaces, which is part of, what allows me to kind of stay even keel, being a purpose in certain spaces.
Okay. I love that because you said listen to lead and serve. So I heard you when you said taking time bomb. I think that's one thing that us as Black men go through, whereas you want to express yourself, but people are not listening to you at the same time, or they don't understand what you're saying. And you're just like, I need to get this out, but I don't know how to. So you may play sports. You may sit there and knock somebody's head off at the game, like by tackling them too hard because you didn't have that outlet. And I think for me, I'm in the same boat. I was taking time bomb at some point. This was around having a single mother, but then also wanting to know who my father is. So is that space of, is somebody withholding information from me? But my mother wasn't. She was just like, I needed you to be ready to take in that information, not you sit there and take it and now you upset even more. So I definitely hear you when you say ticking time bomb. But I also hear you when you said I had to learn how to be calm, which allowed me to work into the listening space, which allowed you to lead. And I think that's from what I'm hearing, what I see, and what I observed with you. You listen before you lead. And I think you also lead by example. You really don't say anything. You just lead. And I think people that do that, they are great listeners. They can sit back and say, okay, I see this going on. I see that going on. Okay, but we still got to go this way. And let's figure out how to do that. I want to hear from your side. I want to hear from that side. And I think for me, that's what I learned from all the black men that you saw. I want to also thank you for coming to my wedding, because you got to see the black men that created the person that you see. And when I say that, it's like I can't sit here and not lead now because they pushed me forward. So I want to thank you for being there.
Of course, man.
The other thing that I did want to ask you about was knowing that you've built this identity for yourself. You've created this space of listening to lead and understanding who you were, your presence. How did you navigate this world so successfully to the person that you are right now? It may not have ended, like you said, just yet with the glory and everything like that, but how did you get to this point and navigate? Who did you learn from? Who did you listen to? What advice they give you? Anything that you can share, brother?
So I'm gonna give a roll call real quick, right? No, I want to shout out. First person would be my grandfather, who came over, who came to the States to help my mother and us out. Who was, already in like near retirement age and literally just, at one point we were in a shelter here in the States, and we did also try at one point to leave the country and become citizens in London, and we got rejected and had to come back here. It was a very tough time, and then for my grandfather to come over and to hold it down, like it was amazing to see. This is the first example I had of a man coming into a space and just assuming some responsibilities that I didn't assume were anything related to what he needed to actually be doing, right? He's granddad, so, and he's in a whole other country. So it was the idea of him coming to take care of his daughter and his grandkids and to hold it down while we were going through some, seriously, tough times. That was amazing. So that's, shout out to granddad, rest in peace. Then there was in college, there's my boy Fanati, his father, Pops, he's, Mr. Collins, he created a space for me. I remember when I was leaving a house that I was renting, and it was time for me to find another place. Now I could have moved home, but I wasn't going to try to go back to the basement in the house, living with mom and all that. And I remember hanging out with my boy Fanati, and him and his brother and his cousins and his father were in this 2-bedroom apartment in Mount Airy. And what was crazy about it was the peace, though. Like everyone, was just about going to school, and it was away from the neighborhood. I used to live in Logan, Alany section, and I wasn't always wearing ties and paying taxes. I wasn't, I got into some stuff. So the peace, though, like there was no place to sleep. I literally asked him if I could stay there while I, finished going to school. And I would lay on, literally, I traded in where I was living at, which was a 3-story, 5-bedroom house that just me and my brother. And I went to living on the floor, in a, literally a comforter, a pillow. And that's where I slept while I went to Penn State, Abington, Ogons. And the humility that he showed in terms of him having this amazing position and being highly educated in Liberia, and then coming to this country, and the things that he had to do just to make ends meet, just for this little humble dwelling, was amazing. So again, another influence of someone who was just serving, and regardless of his past titles and education and status, he just got back to the cash part of it. This is what I need to do. And then a little bit later, of course, one of the biggest influences ever in my life, Reverend Dr. Herbert H. Lusk.
Okay.
That guy. Literally, while I was at Penn State, and chasing a girl into church, I ran into it. I went to his church. There was a girl that was like, hey, this is the church I go to, and was like, hey, Wes, just, get yourself together. I was still out there in the streets a little bit, And I went into this church, and I heard this guy preach and talk about his transition and not in being more than an athlete, and leaving the NFL. Like that, I paused on everything. So wait, stop. You're like, I get it, right? You're more than an athlete, but you're in the NFL. Like, play your role, bro. What are you talking about? Like, you hit the highest
Yeah.
level. But the fact that he left to follow his actual calling and being so convicted by his actual calling, his purpose here, it struck me in a way that I stopped. I let her live, by the way. I didn't even talk to her after that. I was just like, wow. And, and that's what began my journey with Pastor over 27, 28 years ago. So, and he taught me even more about, being the leader, servant, father, development, community, and how to wear these different hats, and communicate through them and be in touch with them in a way that you can show up in a way that's really organic, even though, you have so many things going on. Right. So, that's just a short roll call of people that allowed me to also be myself and be a sponge too. And that's why when I move in these different spaces, it's phenomenal because, people are like, how are you able to do all these different things? And you over here, I just saw you over here in this part of the world and you over here doing this. And then you're here in Philly doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, it's because that's the influence. The influence happens to be these three guys are global, period. And how I was raised was global. So it just makes sense. It makes sense when I'm chilling with grandma in Canada, or I'm chilling with my sister in Jamaica, or I'm there with my brother and my nieces and nephews in London or whatever. And that's just that has no anything on me. That's just life. But more importantly, these individuals, how I was able to embrace them and give them permission also to pour into me, is because it's just a global thing for me. So that's what allows me to look at the world in a way that's like, I know a lot of times people may even look a little bit strange at me, like, bro, I can't help it. This is my reality. Like, yours may be different, and it may be narrower, and no shade or, no judgment at all. It's just, that's literally what's in my backyard. It's just a little bigger.
Yeah. I'm glad that you did that roll call because it allowed me and those that'll be listening to understand how you created the person that you are today. And that's the main reason why this podcast is here, because it allows Black men to share what they need to share and allow people to say, hey, look, that is Donavan West. I know him in this space, but now I'm listening to his voice. And that's a little different. You can see the work, but now you're hearing his story from himself and not from me. Because I can tell you a lot of things about yourself, but when you dig deep with somebody, like I say, you go in the den with them and you sit down and say, hey, brother, so how did you do this? And these are the questions that a lot of Black men that I've learned, like you said, they gave me permission to ask these questions.
No, and I appreciate it big time.
I think that was
There's
good.
one other person on the roll call, but I will not say his name. But by me not saying his name, he knows who I'm talking about. And this is a person that he's phenomenal, but he doesn't like any light. He's just, we call him the secret squirrel. But this, he's the genius whisperer, if you will. But I have to give him a shout out just by saying that. So if he sees this, he knows who I'm talking about. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You gotta ask these types of questions when we get an opportunity with one another, so that we can be like, oh, this is the ingredients, or this is the recipe, so to speak, right? And me going to your wedding, and again, I have to thank you, because you allowed me to witness that. But that was my favorite part, is when I saw those men lined up. But the part that took it over the top is your mom. Is the one, again, that word again. Your mom gave those men permission. You see how that goes? She gave them permission to pour into you, which then now made you the man that you are. And you had this whole squad. Now there you are, the true king that you are, and there goes what? There's your court. You got your whole court lined up. And I was sitting there like, me and my boy Marcus, I was like, yo, this I've never seen. I've never seen it in all the weddings I've ever been. there's two things I never saw that you displayed, and that was the people that were your actual court that were grooming you, and then more importantly,
Mm-hmm.
the mother stepping in and the speech that she gave about giving permission and allowing these men to pour into you to create,
Mm-hmm.
who you are, or to contribute, excuse me, to who you are. That was
Yeah.
phenomenal, man. Phenomenal.
Thanks, brother. So we're going to step into this space of who you repping. And the first question is, how do you represent? Because I know I gave you these identities. You shared the identity servant leader, advocate, and father. So how do you represent those identities in a way that the world may not understand?
This world is extremely political,
Yeah.
right? I got to be careful,
Mm-hmm.
but it's there's a story about a boy walking with his dad, and he hears a dog that's crying, that's whimpering, and the dog seems to be, there seems to be like a nail that pierced the dog's side or whatever. The dog's laying on something, whatever, and is whimpering. And the boy asks, his dad if he can, why is the dog, crying, and if he can help the dog. And the dad is like, no. And the dog continues to cry. And the boy gets a little bit more like upset and asks the dad again, why can't we help the dog? And then, the dad eventually says, well, it doesn't hurt enough. That's why the dog is still there. And so the reason why I bring that story up is that there are a lot of places and spaces where we may want to help and contribute and participate and collaborate and engage others and address certain issues. And then when we get a little closer, we realize for a lot of people, it doesn't hurt enough. And so I think the thing to answer your question, like what most may not get about me, is that I want to get it done. Let's go. My mouth waters when drama happens. Like I can't help that. And there's those that have worked with me over the years that know, like, when it gets craziest out there, I start smiling, bro. Like I start, because my faith, and also because of the things that I've experienced and all that stuff. Like, and again, going back to the people that have, mentored me, like when I think about my grandfather, how he handled the drama, it was crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we were at, what we were going through, like it was, yeah. When I think about, even just, what Pops showed me, like, they were refugees from from Liberia, and what they experienced and how they were able. So, it's not like there's a trend, there's a theme here in my movie, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with, with Pastor, all the years and all the things that we had to go through and how he was able to navigate, how we were able to do certain things. So in my different roles, when it gets crazy, I'm like, okay, like I like it here. You know what I mean? I'm lighting up now as I think about it. Why? Because you can't make this up. Like you can't. You know what I mean? The energy in my eyes and everything, my spirit, what it emanates when I think about it. The challenge is that there's others that are looking like, oh, we was just saying. And it's not to convict anybody or anything. It's just to simply say that I think the thing that's most misunderstood is that I really ultimately, this is not just wordplay. I may sound like a politician. I get it. I may sound like that, but the truth is I literally want to get it done. So we got to talk, whatever, we got to figure it out. Okay. And when there's too much of it, then it's hard for me to stay engaged. And so you've experienced it. There's times when I kind of start fading back. You're like, and it's hard because at the end of the day, I'm hearing too much chatter. You tell me where to show up, or you give me, you send me a document, say, hey, listen, we got to get it from this to that. Okay. But all this other stuff is like, it's not because of my height, but I don't need the soapbox bars.
Yeah, that's bars. I mean, that's real. That is real. And like you said, the identities that you represent, all of them that you said, and the ones that I've observed, the main theme of it is, okay, let's get the work done. It has to get done. So seeing you as a servant leader, there's things that have to get done. Being an advocate, there's things that has to get done. And then being a father, there's things that have to get done. And like you said before, there might not be glory at the end. It may not be someone giving you an award, praising you, but the work got done and the impact was made.
Listen,
So I hear you, brother, with that one.
I can't tell you how my number one weakness. My number one weakness is I do too much one-to-one. I don't do one to the mass. That's my biggest weakness. It's my detriment, meaning I should be far more richer and further ahead if I just follow that other, approach. I roll up my sleeves too much, bro. You know what I mean? It's too much of me and not enough team in certain things and deliver. Like there's too much of that for me. I have to work more on backing up, and I do this a lot, of course, as a consultant, as an advisor, helping people build systems and subsystems. But for me personally, I just keep too much of, all right, let's go, let's what I mean,
let's go, let's get our hands
dirty. And so I think that's what's most, I think, misunderstood. The other thing that's most misunderstood about me, I think, in those spaces is that we talked about presence. And I acknowledge that in certain spaces I'll come in and I'm like, boom, boom. And I try to hit the wall. I try to go into the background quick in a lot of spaces because sometimes energy-wise and presence-wise, people may gravitate a certain kind of way. And at most times I'm like, I'm not here to take over any space. I'm really here to listen and wherever I need to fill in the gap or whatever. I'm okay with that. The work that I did with People for People, and I was okay. I was not the person that's trying to get to become CEO and X, Y, and Z. I'm okay doing the work, getting certain things done. And Pastor and I being able to both roll our sleeves up in X, Y, and Z. But, he clearly had a certain role in terms of the relationship management, the vision and guidance and the mentorship. I'm okay, being in smaller roles. But I think sometimes people, again, right, like, whether it's optics or status or whatever. And I'm really back to the, let's just get some work done. One last thing on the topic is there was a conversation I was having with some team members, and I was introducing a potential team member to a project that we're doing. And one of the existing team members was like, I don't know how we're going to work with this potential team member because of X, Y, and Z. I don't like how they X, Y. I said, I will be the referee. I will manage the relationship. But how are we going to get anything going? How are we going to be effective? I said, we're going to be effective by remembering why we're here. We're going to be effective remembering what we have to do. We're here to actually focus on improving the lives of a particular audience. And if we have that in common, we can continue to walk together. Right? We just gotta maintain and meditate on that over status, right? Over certain roles. And if we can meditate on that, then we can coexist. And this is not just for the business space, but it's what's also allowed me to be a good co-parent. Shout out to the mother of my child, Kim. Amazing co-parenting that we do. And it started with that. Remembering why we're here. What got us here. Okay, that's one thing. But now, remembering now why we're here because of our common love, common interest for, right? Stop.
I think that, no, you good, brother. You good. I think that also leads into my next question, because when you talk about the things that you do, you have expectations for yourself. So what expectations do you have for yourself? It can be what you thought about when you were younger. It can be now. But then also, how did you overcome societal expectations for you as well?
Well, I think more recently, it's been another aha moment, which is interesting when you're in your 40s. You think everything is like pretty figured out, which is another lie. Like, and I'm not to say that I don't have things figured out, but the idea that things are more crystallized and they're less fluid. But if you're a lifelong learner, if you're, you keep yourself in a humble space to still learn. And one thing that I was able to learn about myself is that I can be more. And that it is okay to be all these other things that I may be. And so struggle and say, well, how can you, if they're looking at my, my page, how can you do that? And how can you do this? It just comes down to focus when you're in that space. Right. But more importantly, it comes out to like, who are all the things you are? When you take full inventory first, then you can now be accountable to all the things you are. And you can also make some edits. You can prune the tree. You can do some things. But in order to prune the tree, you have to back up from the tree and look at it. Look at it in all its totality. Too many of us are like, we right there on the branch talking about we're making adjustments. No, bro, you got to back up. Look at the whole tree and be like, okay, here's all the things that I am. Here's all the places that I occupy. Here's the places where I provide support because of my roots. Here's the other places where I provide shade because of my height. Here's the other way that I provide other connections because of my branches. I see all of them like, okay, now I need to make some pruning. I got so that I can stay healthy. So I think the things that I learned most is about just how big the tree is and acknowledging it, so that now when I'm here with you, I'm actually here. I'm present because I've already had the conversation internally about who I am, where I'm at, and how I need to function to give you all of me in this space right now. And then when I'm with my mom, the things I need to do in that space. When I'm with my daughter, the things I need to do in that space. And so when I have these conversations, with my daughter, such as, how are we doing? How am I scoring in your report card? Is there some things that you think I can improve? And she's looking at me strange. And I'm like, I know this is strange because nobody talks like this, but let me be the first. It's okay. Like there may be something that, and so eventually what happens is that it goes back to something I mentioned earlier. For each one of my responsibilities, I have to be accountable for the fact that there is a set of relationships to go with them. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what's allowing me now to just be like, okay, goal-wise, is to step even more, lean more into that, especially as I'm looking into 2023. It's like, what is my responsibility, not just as a father, as a son, as a brother, a sibling, what's my responsibility to the community? I took a break from Philly for a while and I've been doing stuff in different spaces. What are other things I need to do now that, especially with my daughter being closer now, what are the things that I need to do to further support the community? Because this is the space that she's in. When she was in Atlanta, I turned Atlanta and Georgia, I turned that into like create an ecosystem of a family, a village. And okay, she's here. I'm back. Boom. What are we doing? Right. So I'm in that space now. So when it comes to the things that I'm expecting of myself, it's to pause again, take a step back, look at the tree, look at where the tree is at, in all the situations, and start to make some serious adjustments for 2023.
That's a great analogy for me because I'm a visual learner, and you allowed me to see how you look at things, and you allowed me to understand how you look at things as well. So when you take that step back and you look at that tree, you also have to remember this is, if you don't mind me adding to this space.
Please.
I also talked about this with Tamir Harper in another episode. He talked about the fence and also the tree. I also talked about the foundation of the house. That's in the space that you have to back up and take a bigger picture and look at. And for us to like hold on to our young people and to see like those you have expectations for 2023, but it's not just for yourself. You also said the community. And that's how we looked at it. We said we have to hold on to some information, but we also have to protect our young people at the same time. And these four walls that we have around them are us. The foundation and the roof is like the ancestors for us because they built the foundation for us to stand on, but then they also are covering us at the same time. And I think when you take that step back and say, okay, I can give shade at this moment. I can have my branches grow over here in this moment, but I also have to remember that there's soil and then there's also the seed that's still allowing this tree to grow. And I think that's the most important part too. And I think for me, when it comes down to societal expectations, I just want, like we said before, I just want people to see when I paint this picture of what a black man is, what do you see? And I think that's the question I have for you. how do you want people to perceive black men and boys in the city of Philadelphia, or just in general, black men as a whole?
I want society to see that black men, just in case you struggle with, like, historically how you've seen black men.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about just the current black man. So I want you to
Mm-hmm.
walk into the space and be like, here's the 2.0, or the, version of the black man.
Mm-hmm.
Our cars, our phones, our technology, whatever, everything gets an upgrade. So
Yeah.
how about we, as black men, we participate in the marketing of our upgrade, our collective upgrade. And this upgrade has these new
Mm-hmm.
features like empathy, sense of community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Higher levels
Yeah.
of transparency and vulnerability by way of our emotional intelligence and our ability
Mm-hmm.
and our willingness to communicate, our desire to reunify the family by way of
Mm-hmm.
healing, communicating in ways where we talk about forgiveness, humility.
Mm-hmm.
This upgrade also is complete with higher levels of activity. Whether it is
Yeah.
understanding that, yes, you want to be in the lives of the people that you're responsible for financially, but also
Mm-hmm.
this higher value in your physical participation, right? So,
Yeah.
and then what are all the other things? So this higher upgrade also means, more intimate conversations amongst one another, to be able to say, hey, listen,
Mm-hmm.
I need an outlet because it really is crazy out here, and being able to
Yeah.
connect with one another. So I think that the upgraded version, the 2.0 version, comes with all these additional, features and, amenities that really have always been there. But let's reintroduce
Mm-hmm.
it because this country is the number one marketing country of the world, right?
Yeah.
Let's market it then. Let's get it. Let's create that marketing plan. And in that marketing plan, here's the end result of that. Here are the key points that we want to emphasize, to our target audience. And that's all those things: emotional intelligence, critical thinking, higher levels of
Mm-hmm.
empathy, higher levels of overall communication, transparency, vulnerability, a desire to reconnect with the family, higher levels of accountability, being
Mm-hmm.
responsible physically, not just financially, right?
Yeah.
And also, the last but not least, working as a team, showing literally how there's strength in numbers. And if we can, and when we demonstrate that in terms of discipline, the discipline to do that,
Mm-hmm.
then
Yeah.
we'll really be a force to reckon with. We will literally, the nightmare of the black man will actually come to reality.
Mm.
Bars.
Mm. Yeah. I
I
think that was
felt
more than
something when I
bars.
said that just now. I was like, whoa, wait.
I think that was more than bars, brother. I do appreciate you for adding that. I do want to ask, because I know you've heard about the podcast. You may have listened to some. But I did explain a while ago that I was going to start this podcast, and I do appreciate you for being on. So this podcast is mainly about what I've observed with black men, just all black men that I've observed, talked to, experienced. And I've seen that there was tension between the older generation and the younger generation of you're not listening or you're not hearing me. And I think I was the one in the middle to translate several things for the younger generation and also the older generation. And it doesn't matter. I've heard from other brothers. It doesn't matter where you are in this line of being black manhood. It's just how you show up for the next person. And I do want to ask you if you have any advice for either the younger generation to say, hey, I hear you, young king, but you also got to listen to the older generation. Or, OG, I hear you, but this young brother right here is about to run through this door that you are trying to stand in front of, that you cannot open. And it's not for you to go through yet. It's for him to go through. So is there any advice for either both
Yeah.
or either one that you can see?
Here's how I see it. I see that we the old heads, the young bucks, and everybody in between.
Mm-hmm.
Our business of how we are operating, right,
Mm-hmm.
is failing.
Mm.
our business of how we are engaging one another is bankrupt. Like we're about to file a chapter, right? Literally, chapter 11. We might as well. It's bankrupt. We are in imminent danger of this business literally having to shut down. Look at it like a business. There's way too much turnover. There's very little retention right now. Okay. Retention of information, retention of healthy habits and traditions, retention of one another's of value. So we got to get back to understanding something. With our business, like operating individually in silos, your business is failing. My business is failing. We need to partner. And the first rule of partnership is understanding each other's value. Right?
Yeah.
And then the second rule then is inviting one another, again, giving each other permission to speak to one another, not at one another, but with one another, right? In partnership. So we got to listen to one another. You have a vantage point that I don't, and vice versa. And when we understand that the more that we actually listen, especially to our youth right now in terms of what they're experiencing, how they would like to participate, then now we can do something actually that's going to be impactful. And you can't be impactful if you're not relational and if you're not relevant.
Yeah.
So OGs, you're not relevant. You're not relevant because you're not listening. You're not relational. So you're just in the way. You're annoying. You're a nag at this point. So how do you move past that, right? And then young bucks, y'all just a mess. Y'all don't know. Y'all don't have the benefit of knowing the terrain, right? The landscape. And so you're hitting way more walls than you need to. Meanwhile, people are blazing past you. Why? Because they already got asset maps, right? They got resource maps. They got wisdom maps. And you there bumping in walls like it's your first time on this level of the video game of life. So that's why at the end of the day, you may get to the next level, but it took you 60 attempts. Meanwhile, other cultures, they getting through. Why? Because they passing them cheat codes. And the cheat codes come from the OGs. So the reason why we're not doing what we need to do in that space is because we need to first get to a point where we say, you know what? Individually in our silos, we're failing. Our business of being relevant, being impactful is failing. And we need to do way more listening and think in a collaborative perspective and start thinking partnership. If you have more stake in what I'm doing and I have more stake in what you're doing, then we're going to leverage more mindset and resources to actually getting some stuff done because our voices are being heard. And now we're not associating one another with the larger audience that's not listening to either one of us.
Bars again, but it's also gems at the same time because I like that you said turnover and retention because that can mean so many things.
That's a whole nother conversation. You're right.
It is, but I do want to lean into that because it's also asking the question of like, what's one thing Black males can do to grow together when you say turnover and retention from what you've seen? Like, what's one thing you think Black males can do to grow together?
Stick around. Stick around. So way beyond any years that I may serve on the Mayor's Commission on Black Male Engagement, way beyond any engagement or participation with 100 Black men, way beyond any participation in a diverse force engagement or supporting the P4 initiative, way beyond any of those things. I'm stick around, relationship wise, being a resource, just being able to communicate and engage with one another. Stick around. I think, even amongst each other, we suffer from abandonment issues. How long you here for, and are you okay? So you got to say your 2 cents about the thing that you're interested in, and that's it. So I think just by sticking around, communicating more transparently, and getting rid of the egos. You think, right now you're standing on something that really is a lot more shaky than you think. And that's the thing is that a lot of things I'm sharing, a lot of people are just going to be like, "What are you talking about?" And that's what we need to fix. Like that's literally what we need to fix. And if you can challenge yourself, like those that are listening, if you can challenge yourself to be like, maybe there's something else that I can hear and like learn in this space, then we got a fighting chance. I'm still a student. I'm not even sitting here like I'm on the top of the mountain. Nope. I'm just at a certain stage, taking a quick pause so that we can talk. And then I'm gonna get back to climbing right after this.
Thank you. That was key. And that's why I asked that question, because that's key for other black men to hear. Like, stick around. Like, just doesn't have to be in the organizations that you're with. It's also about what's going on outside, saying we need you to stick around. We don't need you to be gone. Two black men be gone, one for something and the other one not here
Right.
at all. So that's why I put my head down, because I got emotional, because you could have just said stick around and that just meant so many things. So I commend you for saying that. And I love you for saying that, because we need to hear it. And before we do end, I do want to elevate you, the work that you're doing. If you have anything that you have going on, this is the time for you to share it. It can be work, it can be personal, it can be things that you're doing globally. Please add that, brother.
And I just want to first give a shout out to Temple University's, MARC program and what they were able to do in Anaheim. It's phenomenal when you think about, like I said, the 5,500, close to 6,000 in attendance overall, 2,000, participants when it came to presentations of their biomedical, experiments, and for 4 out of 9 of them to win in those categories is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. So shout out to them and what they're doing. I'm doing a business and tech conference in Ghana, December 9th and 10th. And I'm extremely excited. It's my second time in Ghana, and I'm partnering with Fire Free Inspiration, reaching everyone, as well as a number of other, philanthropists and developers that represent a wide range of things, from the arts to, science to cryptocurrency to the metaverse. Like we're bringing it to Ghana on those 2 days. We'll be serving over 300 people in that capacity, while also giving away school supplies. We're building another computer lab. We're bringing down another 30 to 40 laptops to build another computer lab down there, basketball court, a number of different things that we'll be doing. So I'll be down there for over 2 weeks in December, and I'm extremely excited about that. So I'm doing some fundraising, as you would imagine, to make sure that we're able to cover all our bases, because it is pretty expensive for all the things in the most expensive month of the year to travel to Ghana. But so that's one thing. In addition to that, I'm doing some additional work with schools when it comes to mentorship, as you know. And there's 2 platforms that I leverage. BBA is the lead one, Black Business Accelerator, where we're standing up businesses, and my goal is to make sure that we get into the schools now to participate and get our students to think more like businesses, right? And one point that I'll say about that is that it's interesting how we can learn about geometry and trigonometry, but we can't learn about taxes, we can't learn about scale, and we can't learn about credit. So so we want to focus on making sure that all of our young scholars are thinking more like a business, because that's the truth. We all are miniature businesses, right? We're solopreneurs, we're micro enterprises, and I want us to start thinking along those lines. So those are just a couple of things that I'm working on, and also looking at ways that I can also support the community. So I'm thinking about who to partner with on a couple of projects that I believe are going to impact the community in a tremendous way.
Thank you, brother, for sharing that. Please send over the link for people to donate, and I will put it in the description on YouTube, because this will go up on YouTube, brother. But it'll also be in the description in other places as well. Brother, I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank you for sharing. I want to thank you for just being who you are and being Donavan 100%. I want to appreciate the audience for listening as well, because you are the reason why I do this, for Black boys to hear other Black men communicating in ways that you may not get to see every day. And I also want to plug some of the work that we're doing. So follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Urban Thinker Media. And also follow our website. We have a website, www.urbanthinkermedia.com. We have a lot of projects coming up soon. All the brothers that you've heard on the podcast. This is episode 10. So this is the last one for the season. I appreciate you all. I love y'all. See you all next time with another brother here on the Middle Brother Podcast. Peace.